Hello, everyone. JJ from JJ's Battle Report here, and I'm going to go over what happened at EUIC 2025. All right, I'm going to make this quick. Round one was Yasayuki up against Tord, Archaludon EX up against Dragapult EX. Tord's list was a little bit different than the normal Dragapult Dusknoir that we saw, and able to take it down 2-0. Round two, Caleb versus Henry, Miraidon versus Golden Go EX. Not what you'd expect from Henry, but after 3 games, Caleb was able to take it down towards the end of time. Round three is Pedro up against Steven, Lost Box versus Cloth Dropagos. And game one, that Petrant was prized, so Pedro kind of was able to actually play the game. And after 30 minutes, Steven ended up winning game one. Game two, Pedro got an MP very much out of nowhere, ended up taking the game two in turns for time, and ended up in a tie for this round. Round four is Ryan up against Jesper. It is Gouging Fire up against Dragapult Charizard. Now, game one, Radiant Alakazam really helped Jesper a lot, and then game two, Ryan actually misplayed the KO and ended up losing because of it. So Jesper winning 2-0. Round five, Grant Shen up against Toshihiro, and it is a pretty quick one, 2-0. Grant really just chases the V Star for the KO every time, and there was nothing really Toshihiro could do. Round six, we have Giovanny up against Daekyung. It is Gardevoir EX up against Lugia V Star. And game one, Daekyung only got one Archeops into play, and because of that, Giovanny was able to knock it out and then knock out Iron Hands. From there, nothing really else that he could do. Game two, Screamtail was inevitable. Lugia got off to a slow start, and Giovanny wins 2-0. Round seven, it is Andrew up against Shun, and it is Zoroark V-Star up against Dragapult EX. Now, this was a 2-0 for Shun, but was able to pull off two pretty good comebacks in the game. Zoroark just kind of ran out of steam once the Area 0 was bumped, not having enough to take a knockout on Dragapult EX more than a couple times. Now for round eight, we have Stephane up against Natalie, Gardevoir EX against Dragapult EX with Dusknoir. Now, this was probably my favorite game of the entire weekend. It went the full 50 minutes plus 3 turns, and it actually concluded. It was really great. I would recommend you go watch it, but basically just a great game one, boss orders, KO's Guardy, and a Ralts, really the highlight. Game two is a great back and forth. Stephane prizes 4 energy, Super Rod, and Night Stretcher, I believe, but was able to overcome it, take the victory. And with 7 minutes left for game three, Natalie is able to pull together a full 6 prizes, and it was just really great to see. Great play from both of these players. For round nine, it is Joe up against Alex, Archaludon EX up against Dragapult EX with 3 Badoo. This match really took a while for game one. Joe was able to get it there with double Archaludon EX counter catcher. And then game two just did not really have much to get going, and Joe ended up winning 2-0. For round 10 to start off day two at EUIC, Lucas up against Ryuki, and both of these players are regional winners. It turned out to be a very good match for Terapagos Cloth. Ryuki just being able to get early game Badoo plus a late game Badoo. The poison really kind of just made it hard for Lucas to really get going with any draw power, and Ryuki wins 2-0. Round 11, we have Nino versus Callum, Gouging Fire EX up against Lugia V-Star. Now, game one, Callum overbenched a little bit, missed the Archeops, and then miscounted Chinchino damage and just scooped right there. Game two, misses Summoning Star again, Gouging Fire, was able to KO the Lugia V-Star, and then a Lugia V, and Callum just scooped it up. Nino wins 2-0. Now we have round 12. It is Vinny versus Hermione, Dragapult EX versus Lost Zone Box. And this one was another match that I really enjoyed throughout the weekend. Probably my favorite of day two. Just being able to use Badoo early game, and then when it gets knocked out, Unfair Stamp plus Klefki really put Hermione on the back foot. Eventually, Vinny was just able to overwhelm Hermione's board setup. And in game two, Vinny has Klefki with just a Pheasantipity and Rescue Board on the bench. Did not get Dreepy out for a couple turns, but Klefki was able to slow the game down enough to where he was able to get set up, had that Defiance Vest to really kind of protect a Dracloak for a turn or two from something like Greninja. And by the time Hermione was able to kind of get set up, used all of the resources to get Mirage Gate, Iron Hands, and then had an extra energy on Radiant Greninja. Ended up being 2 total. And from there, Vinny kind of just realized the game plan now is just to Itchy Pollen for the rest of the game. Only 1 energy left, and was Itchy Pollen on a Sableye, using Radiant Alakazam to move the damage. So that Sableye is always in the active spot. It was a really cool game to see, and just really good match overall in showcase of Vinny's deck. And yeah, it was probably my favorite of day 2, and Vinny ended up winning 2-0. Round 13 is Sebastian up against Simone, and it is Gardevoir EX up against Archaludon EX. Now, this match took 30 minutes for the game 1, but Simone was able to win it with a top deck boss's orders from an Iono to 1, I believe. And game 2, Simone got a fast start, 2 to 6 prizes, something like that. And Sebastian ended up trying to play 2 supporters. They caught it after a little bit of judge review, but unfortunately the second supporter was the Iono, so Simone had the cards in hand to be able to overcome it and finish off the game. Simone ended up winning 2-0 and moving into top 8. And here we see our top 8 decks for EUIC. 2 Snorlax, which we didn't really get to see at all. Making it into top 8 is interesting to see. You have Ryuki with that Cloth Simone with that Archaludon EX, Xander Perot, the top seed with Golden Go, and then 3 Dragapult EX decks. One of them very different from the other 2. For our first top 8, we have Roan versus Natalie. It is Snorlax up against Dragapult EX, and Natalie kind of just had her way in this match. Game 1, prize Turo and a Night Stretcher, but was able to finish it off with just multiple Curse Blasts from Dusknoir. And then game 2 took 3 prizes with Dragapult and was staring down a lone Mimikyu basically by the end of the game, but had a Dracloak with 2 energy and was able to take the game. Natalie ended up moving on into top 4, 2-0. For our second top 8 match of EUIC, it is James versus Xander, Dragapult versus Golden Go EX, and this one just wasn't really too much of a match. Xander built this deck along with Isaiah Bradner to help beat the Dragapult matchup. First and foremost, that's the most played deck of the room, and you're going to have a great matchup against it. Really just was able to win these prize trades, and it's so hard to get 3 Dragapult EX set up, which is usually what you need to do to beat Golden Go EX. Xander ended up winning this 2-0, moving on to top 4. For our first match in top 4 for EUIC, it is Simone versus Natalie, Archaludon versus Dragapult EX. Game 1 was kind of close, came down to Simone going to 1 prize card. Natalie had that Iono to 1, bring up an Archaludon with no energy, and from there, Simone bricked the next turn. Nothing really that he could do, and Natalie ended up winning game 1. Game 2 was pretty interesting, where Simone just really went for that Star Chronos with Dialga of V-Star, but Natalie identified a route for victory where only 1 energy was in the discard, none left in the deck, and Natalie was able to deck out Simone after a couple Iono played and moves on 2-0 to the finals. For our second top 4 of the weekend, it is Xander versus Ryuki, Golden Go EX versus that Cloth Terapagos EX. Now, this one was really just a masterclass of Ryuki playing around Pheasantipiti's Flip the Script by getting every knockout basically with poison in between turns. And Badoo plus Mochi was really good early game to take knockouts on Gimmighoul, and then later on the Terapagos EX plus Binding Mochi able to take those big knockouts on Golden Go EX. There was nothing really Xander could have done this match. All right, we are at Championship Sunday. It is junior finals, Oliver versus Andreas, and this one was a pretty quick 2-0. Lugia versus Dragapult. Amp You Very Much from Iron Hands EX was said 3 times in game 1, and then game 2, Oliver just had that start yet again, Amp You Very Much, and then from there, Lugia was able to clear off the rest of the prizes needed for Oliver to win, becoming, I believe, EUIC's first UK champion. So congrats to him. Now we are at senior finals. Gabriel versus Nathan. Dragapult EX versus Dragapult EX. Gabriel is playing the same list as his brother in top 8. Meanwhile, Nathan's list is more akin to Natalie's with that Dusknoir. Now, this was a very back and forth game 1, but Gabriel prized Blood Moon Ursaluna and Dark Energy, 2 very important cards potentially in the matchup. One of the things that sets his deck apart from the other Dragapult EX. And Nathan took game 1. Now, game 2, Radzam start for Nathan was not the best, and Gabriel was able to use Badu to really limit the setup for Nathan, and just had a lone Dracloak on the bench. A countercatcher plus that Dragapult EX was able to really push Gabriel ahead in game 2. Nathan tried to rely on sticking something in the active spot, and then Iono, Gabriel to 2, but he was able to find the energy to retreat and take game 2. Game 3, it was a Badu battle for early on, but Gabriel was able to grab Monkey Dory, get that dark energy on it, and it forced Nathan to actually bite to take a knockout on Badu. Did not really have anything else. No Dracloak, just 4 Dreepy on the bench and a Dust Skull. It was really just not looking good for Nathan. And then after taking that knockout, Unfair Stamp was played. Phantom Dive, KO, 2 Dreepy, and then next turn, KO'd a Dracloak and a Dreepy. And from there, Gabriel repeated as EUIC champion in the senior division. Insane play. Y'all better watch out for Gabriel. And I really love the Fernandez brothers lists for this event. Now to end it off, we are at Masters Finals. The winner of this will be champion for EUIC 2025. Ryuki up against Natalie. It is that Cloth Terapagos up against Dragapult. And this one was a little anticlimactic. Game 1, Natalie goes first, starts Pheasantipity, passes to Ryuki, who has everything for the Cloth knockout, and we move on to game 2 after just 2 minutes. Now, game 2 was a little bit of back and forth. Temple of Sinnoh really helped, not only bumping the area 0, but making that double turbo energy just provide 1 colorless. And Natalie ended up having a really great 5 prize turn, thanks to Luminion for boss's orders, plus a Dustclop, Curse Blast, and Dragapult was able to clean up the entire game 2. Game 3, Natalie started a Dreepy, but was going second. Ryuki had a Rangaroo V start, which is probably the best start in the deck. You're able to grab that for a Sealstone and the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule for a Sealstone. Grabs that Trolley. Trolley grabs everything needed for that Petrant knockout with Poison. And just like that, Ryuki Okada becomes your EUIC Masters Division champion for 2025. Already had a Worlds invite, by the way, by winning Dortmund earlier on in the season. It's really great to see these players from Japan come out and show up for these events. And Ryuki is the best player in Europe this season, and he's from Japan. It's pretty crazy to see. Can't wait to see what he does at Worlds. Natalie just was unfortunately not able to really do anything in those 2 losses in that top cut. She does have the Worlds invite now, but still heartbreaking to see. That does it for my EUIC breakdown. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these and going back through the entire season for the 2025 Pokemon series. So be sure to stay tuned for more content.